The time is 5:37. I'd like to call this Jerome Township special meeting regarding the fire department safety services to order June 10th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Mr. Adler?
Present.
Ms. Davis?
Present.
Mr. Kraft?
Present. We could rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to move public participation after the discussion regarding the fire levy. I guess I move to move public participation after the discussion of the fire levy.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Adler?
No.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Kraft?
Yes. I've got a sign-in sheet here if anyone would like to talk about the fire levy.
Is Chief there right now? Oh, there you are. I'm like looking for you here. Oh. All right. Should we start with Chief?
Yep. Go ahead, Chief.
So, put a packet on your, first of all, start by thanking everybody for all the due diligence, really working through the levy and looking at different options. I sent out the most recent survey results today that we've collected. There's only a few new ones in there, but there's a mixed results on support for the different options and the support for the bond issue for the construction of Station 210. With the help of Mrs. Davis, we did a small roundtable yesterday with some residents, some key leadership in the community, brought them together, just a small focus group. There's a large push for a third station and obviously adequate funding. Again, mixed opinions on whether we currently have enough funding to maintain staffing and increase staffing. But there is that need and that desire for that third station. As you know, I've been talking about that for 8 years, and that need's never going to go away, nor is the need for staffing, adequate staffing of our firefighters and our apparatus and whatnot. Adequate staffing means reduced response times, means increased safety of our community, and it saves lives. Truly saves lives. We have about a 4-minute window for a cardiac arrest and a non-breather to actually make a difference. And we cannot, right now today, probably about 70% of the township, we cannot make that mark for fire runs or EMS runs. You've seen the map multiple times. It's been posted at the open houses. It's in the annual report where our response times are exceeding that 4-minute window that NFPA lays out for us, and NFPA is the National Fire Protection Association standard. We try to meet that. Station 211 has made a significant impact in that area where we've had a large influx of residential growth and now commercial growth. The 2 schools were there as well. We've had significant impact, not only New California in this area, but in the Jerome Village area. One of the biggest needs right now we have is that southeastern corridor down 161 Post Road, Industrial Parkway. That's going to continue to grow. We know we have a nursing home projected to go in there. Through research that Chief French has done, we're anticipating an additional 250 runs just to that building alone, essentially 1 run per bed, and that's an average. So that will fluctuate, and we have more and more 55 and older communities coming in. So as I know from my experience that the older I get, the more services that I need, and that going to be a growing population in our community. So we need to really take a look at properly funding the fire service, the fire department in Jerome Township, and obviously putting in facilities that are keeping our firefighters safe. Right now, we operate out of a brand new facility that was designed with their safety in mind, and also sustainability of that building, low maintenance that will last us 50 plus years. So Isabella is our youngest firefighter over there. Sorry, I won't call you out, but she's going to be here for 25 years. So after she retires, there will be another generation of firefighters for 25 years before that building should be even think about taking it down. And we hope to get even more years out of it. Station 210 is 33 years old. It was built on a very, very tight budget. We actually pulled up a lot of pictures from it today. It's a pole barn that was converted into a firehouse. At that time, it was probably one of the leading designs, but it didn't have all the safety features in mind for our firefighters and being able to provide to a community that is growing. That was built in 91 and 92, and it was added on in 99. We added on sleeping quarters, 4 rooms, and then a little accessory garage in the back. Again, it was pole barn. It is seeing the wear and tear. We've done a lot of improvements. I would say the firefighters have done a lot of improvements, so we didn't have to contract out. So showers were done by Chief Adams. Floors were put in by the crews. They did all the painting inside the building is done by the crews. We did, when I first got here, we replaced the front concrete because it was worse than a gravel road, and it was impacting the apparatus and the safety of anybody that came into that facility. So we have done a very due diligence of improving that. But obviously there is a time and there's a need for that building to be replaced and really, again, build that 3rd station. In front of you, I had Lieutenant Flora. He put together, with the help of Eric Snowden, and this is just a rough estimate, by no means is a perfect number, but of the homes in our community, the residential, and then the second page is commercial, of what is projected to come in that has been approved. Right now, we have over 6,000 units approved, and only 2,293 of those have been built, so additional 31. The average household size in Jerome Township is 2.98 people per house. And that does fluctuate between 2 and 6, so the average again is right around 3. So with these houses, and this is what's approved today, we're looking at an additional 9,000 people, 9,300 people coming into the community. We know from the last census, we had a 108% increase in the population of Jerome Township, and we know that through Morksey, we're already knocking on 13,000, but we also protect another community as well. So our resources are already stretched thin. Our firefighters are put at risk every single day, and we're wanting to really improve the safety of our community, safety of our firefighters, and by no means will we ever have enough funding to have everything we need. We're just trying to get the basic needs of our community met now and into the future. The next 2 things in that packet, ironically, we found these as we're going through the old scrapbooks. And the first one was an article back from November of 1997, where the fire chiefs were called together by the county commissioners. And at the time, the 2 county commissioners that are named, and I'm not sure who the 3rd one was, but one was Jim Mitchell and the other one was Tom McCarthy. And they talked about the need for EMS coverage in the county as a whole. And then there was times where the EMS coverage was absent because volunteer services could not get out. They were being pulled from other communities to provide EMS. So they were looking at a holistic approach to fixing the EMS issue, but there was really no forward movement on that that we could find after this article was put out. The final article you'll see was written by Ron Rhodes Jr., and it was after the Station 210 was dedicated. It was written on January 1st of 1993. And in this article, it talks about that rapid progress is an issue which Jerome Township trustees state cannot be ignored. Jerome Township was at the time 60 square miles. It's been reduced because of annexation, but it's being tamed by Columbus commuters and large industry. These two combined factors have made response times in emergency situations a huge consideration. At that time when that station was built, it was 8,000 square feet. We've added an additional 1,000 to 1,200 square feet to that facility, and it no longer, I mean, it's getting us by, but it's not meeting the needs of our community now, and it will not meet it in the future. The apparatus that we, and I'll come back, they built that on a shoestring budget. It was a pole barn, and it was built on a budget. The fire apparatus that they started this department with was used apparatus. One of them came from Marmet, West Virginia, and I believe another one, Liberty Township. So it was used fire apparatus that other departments were getting rid of, and that's how they started this department. It wasn't until 1997 that we bought our first new engine, and that was actually traded in when I got here in 2017 when we purchased engine 210. So, and it was in desperate need of replacement at that time, and it just barely made 20 years. So today, the fire apparatus are larger to meet the needs of the fire department, to meet the needs of the fire flows that we have to have. So they're heavier, they are bigger, and there's a lot more safety involved in the fire apparatus. So the way we designed Station 211, the concrete, the doors, everything was to accommodate the newer apparatus, and then future apparatus if we still continue to see changes in the industry. So really good information in those articles. That's nice little look back at history and how it's been a growing problem, not just for us, but for the entire Union County and Central Ohio. But again, it's still not going away. We still haven't fixed the issues for Jerome Township, and that's what we need to do, and that's what we want to do. Any questions on that?
No. Can we talk a little bit, if you're ready, about the three options real quick, and just a quick recap for our listeners
Yes.
and our audience?
So when we've been working on this since I believe October, November. So we nailed it down to three options. We put it out there. One, and actually you almost want to consider them four options because the station bond issue is totally separate than the actual fire levies. So the bond issue, when we calculated, it was to rebuild Station 210, and a third station was not even discussed at the time, and it was actually recommended we just do Station 210 because we never felt that we would get a third station in the coming years. So a 1.25 mil bond levy was drafted to cover the cost of reconstruction of Station 210 to house. They would have a training tower, have I won't say state-of-the-art, but it would have improved facilities. So we had tornado shelter. We would have space for up to 10 firefighters with administrative staff, offices, and the training room that would house up to 32 people, and then an apparatus bay floor that would hold multiple apparatus, and it would allow for the growth of our community now and well into the future. So it had 5 bays. That was all done with research with our architect from every single firefighter that filled out a survey. And that was information that we took, having the old fire station, been living in that since 1991, 1992, and then having the information that we had from the new station and combining them. And the architects did a really good job. They come up with some basic blueprints and layouts of that, and it would actually make it safer for our crews returning off of 42, because then they would go to New California and come in around the backside. So it would change a little bit of the landscape of the park, but it would actually improve the park as well as improve the safety of our firefighters returning. So there was We asked them to add a few extra features for the park as well, just because we wanted to be able to see the impact for both and the benefits of both of having that station redone that way. So the first option, when we get into the levy section, is just a simple renewal. And let me back up a second. With the 1.25 mil bond levy, that was an increase of $44 per 100,000. So if you have a $300,000 house, I'm not a math major, but a $300,000 house, there you go. So we, and that was to get that station rebuilt. Again, not a third station. So as we look towards the options for, option one was just a simple renewal of the levy, so no increase in taxes, and that would just get us maintained. We would never get ahead. We'd never be able to add a great amount of staffing, and we would live on that for the next 5 years or until we had another option to replace or figure out how we're going to properly fund the fire department. The second option was a renewal with an additional 1 mil. So that would be an increase of $35 per 100,000. And then the option 3 was a renewal with an additional 2 mils, so $70 per 100,000. When we put the surveys out, it was tied with the bond issue, so we tried to project the almost the worst case scenario. So if we put both on the ballot at the same time, option 1 tied to the bond issue would have been a $44 increase, and then option 2 would have been the $35 increase and the $44 increase for a total of $79. And then option 3 was bond issue and an increase, renewal with an increase of 2 mils, so $114 per 100,000 valuation of your home. It is important to understand that the valuation is on the current valuations, not what is coming through the auditor's triannual evaluation. So it would be based on this year's value of your home, not 26 or 27 values. So it does help. And those are the 3 options that were presented. As I said, you've seen the feedback that we received, and be happy to answer any questions on the feedback and the surveys that we put out.
Do you want to discuss the survey results?
Yes, we can do that.
It was looking a little complicated, but the color charts were helpful.
So like I said, it was a little confusing, and some of the things that we've learned through this process. If we do another survey in the future, we kind of know what we're looking for now. Not that we're perfect, but get the survey results. One of the things that One of the things I want to highlight, and we can talk about the comments, because I think there was a lot of comments that were ill-placed and whatnot. So when we looked at this, we had 137 total responses. We sent out over 4,500 survey cards through the Every Door direct mailing through the Postal Service, and they were able to scan the QR code. We also posted it on Facebook and on the Township's website, so they could either scan the QR code, and then we added the actual link, because some people are looking at it on their phone and not able to actually access the QR code. So the one question that was put out, option 1, was a renewal of the 2011-2021 2.9 mil levies. A vote to renew this would result in no increased taxes. This option allows for no growth in staffing or services provided by the fire department. There was 45% that do not support this option, as the fire department needs increased funding, and 55% says they prefer this option of no increase in fire taxes. And option 2, the renewal of the The two levies will increase $35 per 100,000. This option allows for limited growth in staffing or services provided by the fire department. 74% said do not support this option as the fire department needs additional funding. And 26%, I prefer this option of the renewal with a 1 mil increase in fire taxes. Third option, again, the renewal with an additional 2 mils, $70 per 100,000. This option allows for adequate growth in staffing of both fire stations and approved services provided by the fire department. 77% do not support this option as the fire department needs increased funding. And 23%, I prefer this option of a renewal with a 2 mil increase. And then the last, one of the last questions, Fire Station 210 or Route 42 has been identified as being inadequate for current and near future operations, as an architect has recommended to replace the station. 1.25 mil bond issue is $44 per 100,000. 57% do not support a bond to rebuild Station 210, and 43% said they would support a bond issue to rebuild Station 210. The very last thing compiles everything. Option 1, renewal with 1.25 mil bond issue. And that was 13% approved that. Option 2, renew with 1 mil and the bond issue. And that is 19%. Renewal with 2 mil increase and 1.25 mil bond issue is 22%. One question, I would only support a renewal of the current fire levies, that is 34%, and 12 was none of the above. So unfortunately, I'm not sure what the 12 mean, but it gives us a really good idea of where this is at. Some of the comments I do want to address, we've had really good feedback, really good comments. People did take an opportunity to do cheap shots, not only on the trustees, but the car show, Brandon, myself, and our firefighters. So I will say that we have done a very good job of recruiting the best firefighters, and I would put them up against anybody in this state, in this country. We are addressing our health concerns because we want to have firefighters that live long after they retire. They have taken the steps to make that. We have annual physicals, so the derogatory comments about how our firefighters look unfit, it's completely misplaced, completely.
Yeah, my comments, like anything that's maybe misunderstood besides like name calling or whatever, I'd like maybe to hit on those issues where there may be a misunderstanding of how the levies work or how the fire department's funded or when the last levy was approved, that type of stuff.
So, great question, because it was indicated that we just approved a tax levy last year, which the last time we had a tax levy was the 2.9 mil renewal with a 2.9 mil increase. That was in 2021, and it started collecting, it started collecting in 22, is that correct? Through 20?
Yes.
So it started collecting in 22. At that time, and this is something that we have talked about multiple times, at that time, that was the third attempt. And we started out with a 5.9 mil increase because we looked at the future of staffing and stations, and we needed that 5.9 mil levy to get us ahead and really start putting safety services as a priority in this community. It failed on the first attempt. It was dropped down to a 3.3 mil levy. That failed, and that's when we settled on a 2.9 mil increase with the renewal of the 2.9. Had we had those 5.9 mil levy back then in 2021, we could easily fund the department for years to come and not have to keep on coming back every 5 years other than just a renewal. We wouldn't have to be asking for more money to fund the growth of our fire department. So it's been 5 years. We're on that levy cycle. We have 4 levies on the books. The first 2 are continual levies, one from 1991, 1992 is the second one. first one is a 2.3 mil levy, and the second one is a 10 mil levy. And then, of course, the 2011 original, that was started out as a 5.8 or 5.9. And then it was finally reduced to a 2.9 to get it passed on the third attempt. So whenever we've asked for increased money, we've been beat up at the polls consistently, and this is where we're at today. One comment is it triples our taxes. It does not. For nobody in this room, it does not triple your taxes. We had the breakdowns, and we showed that for the bond issue it's $44 per 100,000, and then for the even a 2 mil increase was $70 per 100,000. So it doesn't triple their taxes. And that was concerning that they don't know. We do understand that everybody is getting taxed by the schools, and we compete against the schools all the time, no matter what we do, and it's unfortunate. The other misunderstanding is that their taxes go up when their house valuation goes up. And I really need to defer to Robert to kind of give a great explanation on that, why they don't go up versus they do.
So fire levies are outside the 10 mil limitation, which means you can only collect from the existing taxpayers at the amount that you collected when the levy was passed. So as the value of those residents' homes go up, the effective rate of tax rate goes down, so the taxpayer pays approximately the same amount as when the levy was first passed.
I think, like currently our effective millage is like 6.67 for residential,
Correct.
but the millage that was actually approved is much more than that.
12.3
12
plus
12.
the 5.8.
Okay, 12.3 plus 5.8.
Yeah.
But to Chief's point, I'd like to say that even though your taxes go up because your valuation goes up, the bottom line is what we receive for the fire levy out of those people that were on the
You have
initial
to specifically
levy
look
was
at
the
what's
same amount.
going to the fire department, not your total taxes. All the taxes within the 10 mil, which includes some of the road and bridge, a lot of the Union County taxes, and especially some of the schools, those will go up as your values go up because they're inside the 10 mil limitation. When we ran our first levy in 2010, I did the exercise of looking at several properties, looking at their taxes back to 1996, showing that the amount that they were paying the fire department didn't increase or decrease more than like $10 over that time period.
Yeah, I have it here. The full tax rate millages put on total was 18.10, but as that's effective rate's been adjusted, so the levy collects what it was supposed to collect originally.
Yes.
So basically, the levy collection doesn't have any mechanism in there to make up for inflation or any type of increasing cost, because when we put the levy on, it just collects a certain dollar amount.
Not from existing taxpayers.
Okay. Not from existing taxpayers.
Maybe this is the time to put in. Also, a lot of the comments referred to, all the new houses and all the development should be paying their fair share, and they're not. Well, they are. They currently are accounting for 8% growth annually in our fire department revenue. And the answer is, if they weren't paying, we would have had to go back to the taxpayers long before 2010, and we would have had to come back again before 2021, and we'd be asking for even more than what we were asking for originally that we didn't get.
So what you're saying is that the commercial growth that's occurring and the residential growth that's occurring actually has been adding 8%
Yes,
to what we collect each year over year.
yes. And some of the comments were, well, that should provide enough money for you to operate. Well, when you take into account the 38.5% increase in benefit costs, engine costs have doubled, over the years since I've been here. Medic costs have doubled. It's just 8%
Raises-
growth is not enough to,
raises,
yes,
raises.
it's
I
not
think-
enough to keep up with what the department needs.
Okay.
So, you know, I want to touch on that a little bit. We went through, we struggled with this department for years. When I got here, the statute was 3 minimum a day, only 4 people assigned to the crew. Through a lot of work, not only the trustees at the time and prior, and then our firefighters, Chief Billingsley has been instrumental in getting grants. We've received either grants or the contributions for the new station, the ladder truck, ARPA funds, different donations. Just, we're probably over 11 million at this point if we really sit down and sharpen our pencil and look at every single dollar that we've brought in. And that's just in the past 8 years. So that's a heck of an accomplishment. We had to put that back onto the taxpayers. I don't even know what the millage amount would be to be able to collect $11 million. So that's an amazing feat. That did allow for the funding of 9 firefighters and keeping them employed. There is one question.
It'd be like 11 plus mills, just roughly.
Well, over 11 mills, we collect 856,000 in today's dollars per mill. So you're right, just over, it's probably closer to 12 or 13 mills. One comment, do not sink money into rebuilding Station 42, repairs as needed. The bulk of the residents you serve are in Jerome Village. That's where your focus should be. Unfortunately, that's kind of misappropriated with their comments. We serve everybody in the township. We serve all the people that travel through the township, the people that visit the township. That is our responsibility. We cannot ignore anybody that lives south of 33 or 42 and focus on just Jerome Village. We focus on every single person, and that is what we do, and that's our desire, and that's what we do. Option 3 is absurd. This is not reasonable. It triples the current taxes. And again, it does not. We clearly stated exactly what you would pay per 100,000 valuation. And it's a lot of people ask, well, what does that mean? Every house is different. Every house is valued at a different. When we looked at the three trustees, all of you pay a different tax because of the schools that you live in, and then also what your house is valued at. So everybody really needs to take a look at their current house value and help figure out for themselves what that $44 or $35 per 100,000 valuation would be. One comment I do want to say is we've never had a fire truck, the Ohio Fire Chiefs, to show it off. We just don't have the trucks to send down there, so we don't do that. Benefits of the publishing the levy, we did put that out in the survey. We will say with a simple renewal, there will be no improvement in services. Our response times will continue to exceed what we look to is for National Fire Protection Association. We will continue to cross-staff at both stations. We are doing our very best to staff both stations adequately every day, but there's times where both stations are staffed. The medic goes out, and what cross-staffing means is Station 211, they have an engine and a medic there. Whatever run comes in first, they take the medic truck or the engine, and it leaves one or the other without staffing. So we have to bring staffing. Another run comes in, Station 210 covers that area, or mutual aid if we don't have anybody available. So that's what we're trying to eliminate is cross-staffing. And we're doing it with bare minimum. NFPA does recommend 4 firefighters on an engine company. We only have done our numbers with 3. We're putting 2 people on a medic unit instead of 3. So there will be times where the engine will have to chase the medic unit for manpower for major emergencies, traumas, difficulty breathing, cardiac arrest, things like that. So we are sending sometimes 2 stations to a single run to cover cardiac, or car accidents. We do send 2 stations a lot of times. And then any commercial fire, commercial fire alarm, we are sending both engines and the battalion chief as well. There's multiple comments about the booming housing market, must cover increased costs. You know, and I just did some quick math, 8% from 26 to 27 is just over $500,000. That does not even cover the cost of the fire truck or increase any in salaries. So it helps us, but it doesn't give us anywhere. It doesn't move us forward, doesn't move that needle forward in protecting the community like we need to. Again, just passed another levy 4 years ago. Unfortunately, we were on a 5-year levy cycle. Unless we get a continuous levy, we're on that 5-year levy cycle where we have to come back and either renew, replace, or add more millage to fund the fire department. Half the houses are older, and I understand half the houses are older, but we've never had a major remodel to Station 210. The remodeling that has been done by our firefighters, with the exception of the addition that was put on by a contractor and the concrete in front. But our firefighters are keeping those needs down and keeping our budget down because they're doing the work, and we're not contracting that out. They've done a good job, but as time goes on, we get more and more runs, and our training demands keep on going up, and they don't have time. And some of the firefighters just don't have that expertise to go in and remodel a bathroom like they did. So, and I will say the original kitchen cabinets are still in the kitchen that were put in the fire station, and they need replaced. I'll say that. So there's a lot of good comments in here. Is there anything, Robert, that you want to highlight?
Try not to take too much time, but some recognize that their taxes are loaded with the school district and pay, little for local services. But developments and big business need to pay their share, and people moving into the area need to pay more, and I need to pay less. Well, that's not how levies work. Currently, the way property taxes are, you pay it based on the value of the home. It doesn't matter if you've been here 50 years or 2 years.
Or the valuation of the commercial property.
Correct. We had a comment of, Station 211 is useless because there aren't many runs, but yet another person said that they live close and they hear the trucks multiple times a day. So somebody's wrong.
Totally different perception of what's
Yes.
going on.
Yes. Why do Dublin residents get better service than Jerome residents? Well, because they fund their fire department. They pass the levies. So if you pass your levies, you can have the funding and have the services. Got that one.
I will say that to that note about Dublin, their minimum staffing is 24 plus a day. Minimum staffing. Ours is 7, and we cover 55 square miles out of the 2 stations. And I have to look back at the spreadsheet that Mr. Kraft sent me, but they will cover 55 square miles.
We had a lot of comments about, needing more information, not being given information. I mean, this, I think, is our 4th special meeting?
It feels
3rd?
like the 5th. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Plus 2 open houses, so we put, I don't know how else to get it
Mailers to the
them.
homes.
Yes. So if you don't know the answer to the question, come and ask.
Washington Township, 27.5 miles. And I got that off the internet, so no, I'm not, swearing to it. Just that's the information I found.
And individuals say that, there's, they don't really know how many runs are being taken and it's being kept secret. Well, we get a report every month here
Yep.
of all the runs
Yeah.
split out by fire EMS, so.
And the chief could provide that if they
Yes.
give them a call, yeah.
You know, there were some silly ones of like, why is there, they were complaining that there was only one vehicle down wherever you're doing your shopping for your food. Well, you want them to send more? I mean, I didn't get the comment that that was a waste. I'm not sure how else they're supposed to eat if they don't go get their food.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see.
There was a comment about why the medic was in Shawnee Hills, Station 93 was in quarters. When we go mutual aid, we get requested and we go and provide a service, just as mutual aid provides a service to us when our crews are not available or we need extra help. Concord, they needed us, we went. I don't know if 93s is in quarters. I don't have access to that information. That's up to NREC, which is the dispatch center for Dublin. So that was kind of an odd statement. Go ahead.
Strongly believe that an audit will find appropriate cuts to cover certain costs. You know, our financial statements are an open book. We get audited, and it gets submitted to the auditor of state on a biannual basis. I think if anybody who looks at our financial statements will see in the items that we've expressed that we've gotten money elsewhere, we've bought stock units, we've
Anywhere that we could find
gotten
savings.
grants,
Yeah.
yes, I don't see
Okay.
how, you know, that could be, and you know, the insurance cost, what's the insurance cost? There, I mean, unless you cut benefits. We just built a new fire station which significantly increased taxes. It's too soon for another increase. Well, that money came from Jerome Village, you know, I
Through
guess
the
if you're a
community
Jerome,
authority,
yeah,
yeah.
I guess if you're a Jerome Village resident, that might apply based on the community authority,
But
but.
it really was a donation from the consent decree.
Correct. So it wasn't, it didn't increase their taxes, so. A lot about new people should be paying, and we already talked about that.
We'll talk about hitting up developers.
Yes,
Okay.
so, you know, completely unaware of the legal restrictions of what you can ask for and what you can't ask for. It can't be a pay-to-play system where you coerce developers to make contributions in favor of getting zoning.
It's called extortion.
Yes.
And then impact fees
Yes.
are not allowed to be charged by
Correct.
townships, but I think municipalities have that tool in the toolbox.
Yes. Several comments about, you know, the trustees allowing the growth. Well, it's, you know, if somebody comes in and asks for zoning and it meets all the requirements, there's no justification to say no. And when we have said no, we've been sued and we lost. So, you know, it's a matter of supply and demand. We have land, people want it.
Very desirable area.
It's desirable, it's
Yeah.
needed, so it's, I had one developer tell me that all the property available to be developed within Dublin School District will be at some point in time.
And developers can only contribute towards capital, they can't contribute towards personnel.
You folks should have yearly set aside funds to upgrade the station.
Well, we'd have to charge more millage to
Correct,
set aside the
had we
money.
gotten the
Yeah.
levies we requested, we
Yeah.
probably could have done that, but we didn't. Couple about remodeling the existing facility, you know, if they had been party to the discussion we had with the architect, they would realize that that is not a viable option.
It's, you know, the wind rating is kind of not there. The contaminated clothing, there's nowhere to put that to decontaminate it. And, yeah, and the heating, ventilation needs some improvements. You know, it are things that we've talked about at the other meetings.
Oh, I might add one other thing that came up in my discussions with the chief, because I was asking specifically, why can't we do more remodeling? Apparently, it was built as a pole barn, and many of the beams that go into the ground are wooden beams that will rot. And there are some that are on top of concrete that are already rotting out, so the cost of putting more money into something that's gonna fall apart eventually anyways didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Good point.
I think we've hit on all of them.
Okay, so we've got three things that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the survey and maybe myth bust some of the comments that were in there. The first order of business right now is we've got this 5-year levy coming up, and we need to decide what we're going to do as far as renewal, and add. I had Robert put together a sheet here. And of course, if we just renew the fire levy, there's the 2.9 renewal with the additional 2.9. There'd be a 0% increase in the current taxes that we pay for fire services. If we add, and this is the sheet that's colored in your thing. If we add, if we replace that levy and we would lose our rollback, which really isn't an option for me, but it would increase the fire taxes that people pay by 22%. If we do the renewal with a 1% increase, or 1 mil increase, I'm sorry, the renewal with 1 mil increase will have a 16% overall increase in what we pay for fire. And then if we add 2 mils to the 5.8 there in the green, that would increase the taxes people currently pay by 32%. So taking the discussion of the table, the 210 off it, just, we don't want to complicate things. Right now, we just need to make sure that we've got a place and plan that we keep this levy going, and where do we need to be at on that?
Well, I'd like to clarify a couple things first regarding the fact that the bottom line is that our expenses have been increasing faster than our revenues. I looked at the budget numbers, and in 2024, we collected almost $6.2 million with expenses of about $6.6 million, which means that we're already starting to run into a deficit where we have to take out of the reserve fund to cover our expenses.
Make sure you normalize that if we purchased equipment or something. I'm not exactly sure. Which year did you say?
This was 2024.
Okay.
We're showing a downward trend. If we don't renew anything, we're obviously going to have to dip into reserve funds. So we need some kind of renewal at a minimum just to keep up with expenses. And Robert, if you want to chime in on that, but the trend is that we'll continue to have expenses greater than revenues unless we do a renewal. And a renewal will project us out to what, another 3 or 4 years without any additional staffing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Adding the additional staffing, however, to get us to the point where we are having response times that are up to par, 4 minutes or less in all areas, is going to require additional staff, and I think the chief has recommended phasing those in over the next 4 or 5 years, I think, to add an additional 10 staff.
3 years.
Over the next 3 years to do additional 10 staff. And that's going to cost additional funds. So in order to be able to do that, a renewal levy is not going to meet with those needs. In fact, a renewal levy with 1 mil, I think you did some projections that would run us for, what was it, 3 or 4 more years to cover those expenses with the 1 mil?
Yes, the 1 mil, plus the additional positions still results in an annual deficit through 2031, and then we don't see getting into the black until 2032.
So I just want to interject that into our conversation here. And I guess before we make any decisions, I was hoping we would also get some feedback from the public too.
I don't believe we'll be making
Well,
a decision.
We had
until-
the survey results from the public, which it seemed like they were 34% said
I understand. We had some
renew
people
without an increase.
wanting to participate in public comments tonight.
Chief,
Do you want to hear those?
no, knowing, taking in all of this information, bond issue aside, at this juncture, and I know what we really need and what we really want, but what is your recommendation at this point to the Board of Trustees?
At the very least, secure the funding for our firefighters. If we do not pass a renewal levy, over half of our department will need to be laid off.
So a renewal,
At the very minimum.
at the very minimum.
If we're gonna ever increase any services, improve the safety of our firefighters and community, we need to add millage. But at the very least, a renewal has to happen. And I understand the hesitations of adding levy money, 1 mil or 2 mil, levy onto that. We're always gonna be up against somebody, no matter whether we're in May or March or November next year or this year, we're always gonna be up against a school, mental health, somebody will be on the ballot for something. I think if we can't add millage now, we have to come back and we have to fix it somehow. Whether that means a 10 mil levy to clean the books and finally fund the department the way it needs to be funded. The fire department needs 10 to 12 mils to operate efficiently and provide for the safety of the community. Right now, we can affect response times in parts of the township. We can't affect any response times down in the southeast corridor and in the far northwest part of the area that we cover. We can't affect it immediately around the 2 fire stations that we currently have. So there's a lot of ins and outs to that. But I would say at a bare minimum, let's secure the jobs of the firefighters we have. And if we add, that'd be great. We will do everything we can to get that levy passed.
Need to know 55% of the department's revenue is produced by this 5.8 mil levy.
And this would, on the ballot, would explain to the residents that this results in a 0 increase to taxes. Okay. In our open house with a few residents, our discussion led to that exact comment about competing with other levies or bond issues. Justin, you made a few great points about that. And can you expand on that so that the public can hear your thoughts about when we're very unique in that not many townships has 3 different school districts. And you made a few good points about that and how it's very hard to pass a levy when you're constantly competing with other levies. Can you just say a few words about that so that our audience can hear? Because we have a lot of families and a lot of seniors that are faced with this regularly.
He's also lived through the failures of so much. I think you shared the record of pass versus fails and know what it's like.
Steer me a little bit better about what I
Yeah.
say.
Well, you were just...
Because sometimes when people listen to me, I just stop.
Well, you were actually, while I was listening, you made some points about if we were to go forward with increases in taxes, we are faced with families that have their kids in school 5 days a week.
Sure. For years, we've hosted Vacation Bible School at Station 210 at the park behind the station. And a quick history lesson without talking too long. You know, prior to Depp Elementary and Eversole Middle School, we had no schools in the township. So we really wanted a way to get out and do some public relations and get some fire safety out there to the kids. We built a great relationship with Jerome United Methodist Church, started hosting that Bible school, I think, almost 20 years ago. through that 20 years, you got to watch these kids grow up, you got to know the families. I sat the other morning talking to some families, and I was trying to ask one lady to come to our roundtable meeting Monday morning.
Can I just stop you real quick?
Yeah.
You said we had no schools in the township. I know that you didn't need to say that because we have Fairbanks.
We had no
and-
schools inside Jerome Township.
Right, but the levies.
The buildings, yeah.
Right.
We had no school buildings.
Right.
Prior to Depp Elementary and Everett Run, we had no school buildings in Jerome Township.
Right.
And
But we
we-
had 3 school districts.
But we have 3 school districts that make up Jerome Township, and if you count, I think, part of Mill Creek that we cover, even Buckeye Valley goes into there. So, but one of the things one of the ladies mentioned was, my kids go to school 5 days a week, 9 months out of the year, and the schools are struggling. I might put my focus there, or there's going to be young families that will focus there and just hope they don't need you, which in our world is
Crazy.
it's what people do every day. They make choices.
Right.
So that was an interesting thing, that there are young families that are invested in school systems, invested in seeing the growth, seeing the burden on the schools too, and are going to make choices over where they send their tax dollars.
Okay.
Is that?
Yes, I just think it's an important statement to make because what we have to be aware of is when we make this decision, we have residents that live in the Alder district, Fairbanks district, the Dublin district, and they're having to make that choice. So we're very aware of that, and I want our residents to know that we know that every time they go to the ballot, they're having to weigh. It's not just our $44 per $100,000 value of their home. They're also tacking on all of these other services that the county may be asking for on top of school levies and bond issues, which leads me to a discussion about the bond. Do we want to do that now, Chief, or do we want to finalize our discussion around the levy first?
If we could probably keep them separate,
Okay.
the better, that way there's no.
Yeah,
Sure.
I might add, we are expecting Jonathan Alder's schools to go back with another bond levy this November. More than likely, Fairbanks will also be going with a bond levy, which has failed twice already.
And our intention was to put this on this November.
Right,
Correct.
and then Union County Board of Developmental Disabilities will also have a levy. So we're going to be competing for tax dollars and
Yeah.
choices that people have to make, so that it puts a burden on us a little bit to try not to ask for too much.
And with that said, as much as I personally am taking my trustee hat off in this meeting just for a split second, I know how I would vote. Public safety first. I will be very open and honest with our firefighters when it came to our Dublin School District levy. This may not be popular for me to say on camera, but I do find that within school districts, sometimes there is administrative bloat that can be addressed. And that is something that I really look into, and I may not vote for a school district for the levy for the schools based on knowledge that I have around administrative bloat. That is not something that our fire department has. We do not have administrative bloat. So what I want for my children first and foremost, and frankly also our seniors, is public safety first. That is critical for every community to thrive, to keep our children safe. And I know how I would personally vote come November and what I would like to see on the ballot. What I would like to see in November is not something that I think that we can accomplish right now. And it is very important to me personally that we make sure that we maintain our funding, we don't lose it, and that at minimum for the next couple of years, our firefighters have what they need to have their jobs and the right equipment and do what we've been doing. And maybe in the interim, we can convince the public to take a different stance at a later date. But I will tell you, Chairman, at this point in time, I've landed on, aside from the bond issue, that we do a renewal. with no increase.
That's where I was at before we had the open houses. You know, when we first talked about this, and I heard what Chief had to say, and
Well,
Battalion Chief French had to say, or
I guess in an ideal world, I too support fire EMS wholeheartedly, and I've always voted in favor of any levies even before I was a trustee. It's also important, though, to support the schools. And if we didn't have these other bond issues coming up, and levies coming up, I would push even further higher. And we want to support these guys. We need to increase our response time. And I was leaning towards an additional millage, but given the reality and looking at the survey results, I think that we would struggle to pass anything more than a renewal levy at this time. So I'm tending to agree with you.
so, Robert, at our next meeting, could we have language for
Are-
renewal? We need to do that.
Are we able to pass a resolution now?
Yes, I have a resolution to requesting, declaring necessity,
Resolution.
asking for certification of both, just the renewal with 1 mil and the renewal with 2 mils. That is the first step. It goes to the county auditor, who then provides us the amount of revenue that would produce. The second step then is to a resolution to proceed with one of those options.
Okay.
Before we do a resolution, could I ask the chairman to allow those that come and sign up for public participation to at least have an opportunity to speak before we make any?
Sure, I just have one person on my list here. Andrea, did you want to
Yeah,
talk?
well, do we have to go there? Can I just talk from here?
You got to go there, I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Well, we don't have a
No,
microphone up there.
State your name.
Don't
and
pick up
It's
this
the
microphone.
microphone.
Well, I think my biggest, my biggest concern,
Oh, name and address, please.
Andrea Watson, I live at 12080 Taylor Road, Plain City. My school district is Jonathan Alder, so I am up against the school district. I coached at Alder. My kid attends Alder. My kid also would be serviced by these amazing people, myself included. I live on 12 and a half acres. I pay tax. And no, you are absolutely right. We all live in this community. I think that's very, honestly, embarrassing for me as somebody living in the community, that someone would say someone else should pay more than so-and-so. No. This is reality. Where you live, it's how it is. So, also wanted to make sure it was very clear, because I had a lot of people that say that to me too as well in our community, is, well, you know, Jerome Village needs to pay up, or newer developments need to pay up. Well, they did. That whole building was volunteer, and for, you know, that was all given to us. I know that they go out of their way. In defense of this, I'm so supportive of our school districts. I am. I personally have always voted for them. I do have some questionable issues as well. I may get lashed back from this, and that's fine. I'm fine with that. But I do think there's some questionable issues on that end. And why are we questioning our safety? That's my concern in the community in itself. And why are they questioning, but, you know, our school districts aren't? Because of our children. Our children also need service by them. So it's hard for me, yeah, it is gonna be a battle. My concern is we do have quality people that are in, I know this, I know, and we're gonna lose people. We are going to lose, right now, Norwich, well, who else, Washington, I see it every day on Facebook. They're offering more. And here we are, they're settling to stay here because they love people. And my concern also is our community does not recognize who they are and what they do. It's almost a bit embarrassing. Be thankful. They save us a lot of money in grants. They go out of their way to collect money to pay for their payroll, to increase things, and I mean, I've been in Jonathan Alder School District for since, with my kids actively, since '04. I've seen a lot. I don't see us going out probably as much as due diligence to save money in those ways, always, some ways, but not always. I see this always. So for me, I agree with him. I also don't want to set us up to fail either, because they need what they need, so it is a gamble. Do we ask for just the renewal, or are you going to step up and say we need a little bit more to keep our people? I mean, my concern is, yeah, what if someone drowns my ponds? Who am I gonna call? You know what I'm saying? Like, until it happens to you, and I know this for a fact for somebody that complained about the fire department at one point, but then all of a sudden they needed them, and it shifted, right? It shifted to where, oh, I love the fire department now, because hopefully you never have to have a call, right? And that's why when you say about the kids, my kids are at school 5 days a week, right? And they don't see you guys 5 days a week. Well, thank God they don't, right? So my speech would be, let's open our eyes to, we need it. We need it. We need it. We need it all. I get it. You can give and take, but you do really need to educate yourself. I appreciate the fact that Mrs. Davis, you had mentioned that it was hard for you for the Dublin schools and whatnot to say that, but it is for me too, because I'm very supportive of Alder. I'm a huge supporter, as you can see. But my concern is this. This is just as concerning as that. So they're asking for what?
I can't remember, but it's a lot more. You know,
Way a lot more.
it's $58 million.
Maybe they need to come back and negotiate and not these guys. Sorry. Negotiate. They're settling. Why do they have to settle? They don't. They shouldn't. And our community needs to step up, because it's honestly embarrassing that they have to settle, but we can't ask the school district to be negotiating of some sort. It doesn't hurt us. We failed 5 levies. The last time we had a levy was 5 times. Everybody was all upset in arms that we lost a levy this time. We lost it previously 5 times because they had to come back and negotiate. Maybe that's what needs to happen. My other thing is, as trustees, or the board, okay, this is what I'm saying to the community, all I'm asking of you is your responsibility is the safety, is to look over the safety of our community. I realize there are multiple opinions, right? I appreciate opinions, but I trust you as the community to make the best decision for the safety of this community. Not just on other levies and pick and choose, or let's say statistic. Honestly, how many people showed up? 40? How many people in surveys? Yeah. How many surveys?
137 surveys.
How many people are in our community?
11,000
Okay.
population.
For me, that's crap. Sorry. No offense. No disregard for all the hard work that went into that, because I know there was, but that's not enough for me. So I'm just asking you, as a person in the community, that you all need to make the best decision for our community and the safety of it, period. Beyond everything else, I'm asking you, beyond the results of whatever, what is the best thing that needs to happen for us?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And, if it's okay, Chairman, that leads us to the bond issue. But would you like to take a vote?
Well, I'd like
We
to
need
make an
to
additional.
talk a little bit.
Yeah, I'd like to
quicker.
have some additional discussion based on her comments here, and I've got a personal experience. I've lived here 40 years, and I've had to call on the fire and EMS 3 times in those 40 years. I was darn lucky I lived close by. I can't imagine some of the people living in that 12-minute zone down there, especially I'm thinking too, Costco is a 12-minute response time. What if I had a heart attack down there? I'm dead by the time to get there maybe. So it is important that we try to provide as much as we can. I'm just afraid the reality is what we need is not what we can ask for.
We have
Well,
to get it across the finish line and that, at the ballot, and that is,
The levy could, the renewal could, if we put the renewal on, that could fail. I mean, you know, I would hope, I wouldn't think it would.
a 0% increase, I would hope, would not fail.
You know, I was
No-
looking,
Raise
no
your
votes
thing
for sure,
to
right,
happen,
Robert?
right?
There are people that believe that you are lying to them, that it's gonna be a 0% increase.
That's incredible.
It is.
but I was leaning towards the 1 mil increase, to be honest with you, prior to some of this discussion. I've heard from the public, and I really do appreciate the chief and the staff doing all the open houses, the surveys, putting all this information together. It's been very helpful to get these comments. We've gotten a lot of good feedback from people that are very involved in the community. I think that's important for us to take into account these comments and feelings. And I just wish we could do more, but unfortunately, the feedback I'm feeling from some of the key people in our community is that we're not going to be able to pass much of an increase in our millage. So
Okay.
I'm sorry to hear that, but
The resolution.
we need to do a better job of educating the community.
I mean, I get it.
If it were to fail, it would be even worse.
I'd like to move that we pass a resolution declaring the necessity to levy a tax outside the 10 mil limitation, renewing the existing 5.8 mil levy for fire protection and emergency medical services under RC 5705-19I in the unincorporated areas of Jerome Township, Union County, and requesting the county auditor to certify the amounts under RC 5705.03B2 for a renewal with a 1 mil increase and a renewal with a 2 mil increase.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Adler?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Kraft?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's talk about 210 needs help.
So,
210 needs help. We've talked about why it needs help, and go ahead.
so I would like to piggyback on Mrs. Watson's comments about what we can do publicly to ensure that there is adequate public safety. But for me, it's not just about the public safety of our residents. It's also about the safety of our firefighters. It is critical that they are in an environment that isn't they're already putting themselves at risk. People that run into a burning building are already putting themselves at risk. The last thing they need is to be in a living quarters for a third of their life where they have an increased risk to cancer because of it. It has to be addressed. However, the same issue is at hand that if we were to put a bond on the ballot, a bond issue on the ballot in November, we are again competing with the school district, and people put their kids in the school district 5 days a week, and we have residents that are looking at, do we give the school district money and the firefighter? I mean, I don't know if we could get it across the finish line, and so I would like to propose a new avenue to my fellow trustees after reaching out to a number of mentors that have been in legislative roles dealing with these types of things, and also speaking to legal counsel and bond experts. One of the comments that we hear frequently is that growth needs to pay for new services, right? And there is another way to address the rebuilding of Station 210, but there has also been a new development. to my surprise, in our open houses and even online and survey responses, there seems to be a demand for a third station at our southern border in Jerome Township. Personally, as a township trustee, I do not see how that could ever be possible without a land donation, because the price per acre in Jerome Township is very high. We can't even give our firefighters what they need right now, let alone go and secure land and purchase that. However, I've been given permission to announce that through a public-private partnership, we are looking at a potential land donation in our southern area of the township. This is great news. It is not in the bag, but it is very promising, and I think that it will happen. That said, that is step one to achieving the goal of having the opportunity to close the gap that we are seeing in those response times across the township. Okay? Now, the other part is, okay, so say for instance that happens, how do we fund a new station? So what I would like to propose to the Board of Trustees to discuss is tabling, putting any bond issue on the ballot and looking at this new way instead, where we as a township look at the economic development tools that are available to us now that were not available before, because frankly, the growth wasn't there, the zoning wasn't in place, the applications weren't in process, weren't in progress. We have opportunities through a number of economic development tools to secure the revenue that would support bonding this ourselves within the township without asking our taxpayers for a single dime. And all of this financing would come from new growth only. And so what's really great about this is it is smart financing partnered with smart growth, partnered with public-private partnership. And this is the most conservative way that you can approach public safety services without burdening the taxpayer, but yet everybody in the township benefits from this. This is something that would be a long-term goal. This is not going to be something that can happen in the next year, maybe even 2. It may be a 5-year plan. We are in the beginning stages of this with this new information. So what I'm proposing is that our Board of Trustees takes a step back from the bond issue on the ballot and instead pivots with this new information, knowing that a land donation could be coming down the pike. And what we do is potentially look at decreasing the footprint of 210 so that we can use the amount that we choose to bond and split that between the southern border and rebuilding Station 210. And doing this with newfound economic development tools that will generate new revenue solely off new growth. That would be a long-term plan and more sustainable for public services over the course of the next, 20, 25, 30 years. I have had a conversation with our fiscal officer about this. This is new, and I did call him and ask about his thoughts around this. And Robert, do you have any comments about how this would play out in a long-term goal?
Yes, I think my comments were that, if you have the funding source, then you could do a bond issue without going out to the taxpayers. We looked at potential inside millage that may be available, but the county auditor verified once again that there is no more inside millage available, so that was not an option. So agreements, community agreements with developers would be another option that would allow you to issue debt and not put it out to vote to the taxpayers.
And we have a number of projects. So we have our 750-acre innovation district, some of which does not have a TIF over it. There are little pockets there. We have areas from Highland Croy that could generate revenue to support this bond. Jerome Village commercial areas, and partnerships with new community authorities that we feel are very promising.
I think that you've got a pie in the sky dream, which
It sounds too good to be true, that's what I thought of right
in
away.
time may be a reality, but we are looking at a need immediately to embark on either rebuilding 210 and doing a third station. If you're talking about new community authorities, the numbers that I've seen and what was in one small project are nowhere near the amount of dollars that we would need, and it would take probably another 5 years.
That's what I said in my
At
comments.
least
It's a
another 5
5-year
years to generate that, and I think our need is now, and I don't think
Might be
that's.
too late for Station 210.
Yeah, I think that that's going to be too late for 210, and what's come out in the conversations with the general public, and I tend to agree with this now, is that we need a third station sooner than later, and at the same time, to be able to do that, we may be able to consolidate or lower the square footage of 210's rebuild in order to be able to afford those with the same bond issue that we were talking about now. And I think that it's imperative that we not delay another 5 years, and maybe in 5 years, we're going to have other needs that need to be addressed in terms of infrastructure and additional equipment and things like that. We can use that newfound funding to fund those things. I don't know, Robert, is
So
that
I
your-
will say it is not pie in the sky. My first comments were it's a long-term plan, potentially a 5-year plan. I will say what I'm asking is that we step back and bring in the financial experts, because we don't know, and we have new community authority agreements in the works, even the one on Highland Croy that is the mixed use that was here a few weeks back, committed to a new community authority as well. And if we work with the county and express the need so that the details of that support an issue that is so critical, it could happen faster than what we realize. But I don't think that we should use words like pie in the sky when we do not have a bonding expert in the room right now, or a bonding attorney in the room right now. And I think that it is critical that we take a step back and explore that at minimum for a month before we take a bond issue to the ballot, knowing that the biggest pushback that we've seen in New California and with some of our residents is that they're not willing to pay for that.
I'd be willing to hit pause, but I would agree, we've got to do something, or know what where we're
Right,
headed
yeah.
and where we're going.
Robert, if we hit pause, do we still need to ask for the auditor at this time to do the
No,
valuation on
we
the
don't
one?
need to ask the auditor at this time. However, as I mentioned, there's 2 steps, the certification and the resolution to proceed. Those 2 steps have to take place before August 6th,
4th or 6th.
which is 90 days before the general election. Those resolutions have to be submitted to the Board of Elections.
And I will say, I believe almost the identical term in the open house that we just had with some of the residents is your bond issue that you want to put on the ballot is pie in the sky. That is what they said. And so what I'm trying to do is bring forward something to explore before we are telling our residents, or I'm sorry, our firefighters, you know, sorry guys, failed at the ballot. You know, we're trying to balance the demand that our new residents are saying, you know, please have the growth fund the need.
So what I heard from Robert was that even if we hit pause, we might potentially have enough time to put a ballot issue on November, but we could do it next year if the numbers don't work out like needed to cover the bond debt.
Yes, and then Robert, outside of new community authority agreements and some of the properties that are commercial that don't fall under TIFs or abatements, can the JED help?
Absolutely. Right now, the board has kind of assigned JED revenue for economic development / infrastructure, but that money is not restricted for any specific use. So as that money comes in and infrastructure, you know, has been exhausted, or you've done everything you want to do, or that you want to redirect that money for other projects, you're free to do that.
So for
And the firehouse
example,
would be considered infrastructure,
Yes.
capital, yeah.
so for example, the Kia dealership that's happening down there is not under a TIF.
Correct.
So that could help with the bond issue, the bonds
It will help in both property tax revenue and JED revenue.
and JED revenue. So those are things that I'm saying that we haven't fully explored, that are happening all over the township, that I think that we need to explore over the next month.
And who's gonna do that? Is Robert gonna get that assignment, or are we gonna hire somebody to do that? Because the numbers are critical. I think that the numbers will probably not support any short-term bond that we could finance ourselves, and that's the concern that I have, is that we need something to happen in the next year or two, not 5 years from now.
I couldn't agree more, but I'm also thinking realistically about what will pass and how to accomplish the end goal. I think that we should consider hiring, you know, the county uses Andy Brossart, for instance. I think that we should speak with him, and if not him, someone that does what he does. And that we also need to speak with an attorney that specializes in this. And I would suggest that the Board of Trustees, if we need a resolution to do that, that we do that. Do we need a resolution?
It's on the dollar amount. More than likely, we can just use the authorization form for that, those services.
So I would suggest that we authorize it at minimum.
Are you
You
comfortable
wanna
with
look
that?
into the,
Are you comfortable that we'll be able to
If
get
you,
numbers?
you would need someone to do that. I mean, you're taking a look at forecasts as far as build out, assess value at the end of build out, and things of that sort. You know, how much payroll taxes does a car dealership produce? And that would depend on the size of the dealership. I'm not sure that we know how many, salespeople this Kia dealership will house or anything like that. So it takes a lot of data digging.
Can that be accomplished in the next month, do you think? We hire somebody to do this?
It's probably a quick turnaround, but I mean, they give you a ballpark figure maybe.
I think it's worth exploring at minimum, and it could potentially, if we know, if we have those answers, maybe if we do feel like it falls short or that's a long-term plan, it could give us enough information to say, maybe we will go to the ballot, but we're going to cut this in half. And it could be a combination. I just feel that it's critical we do this due diligence first so that we can make sure that we exhaust every avenue for them so that no matter what, in 5 years from now, they have what they need.
it doesn't sound like you need any action from the board, we got a direction. You kind of head this up, Wesleyan, to make sure you keep it rolling.
I'll keep it rolling.
keep it rolling.
Yeah.
Are
And
you going
communicate with Brandon what's going on, then he can let us know.
Are you gonna take the initiative to, or should Robert take the initiative to contact somebody to make these numbers?
I think we should work with our council, our township legal counsel, Andy Brossart and Chris Conley. We have all of these people do this regularly and have worked together and have great relationships. They're also familiar with our area. Chris Conley's very familiar with our JED. Andy Brossart's extremely familiar with our township. And what we don't want to do is re-educate brand new experts.
Right, we have to, somebody's gonna make sure you're available to do this.
Sure. Okay. I accept the task, clearly.
And understanding, as a board, we may still need to do a 30-year bond in addition, depending on where the numbers come in, but if we could figure out a way not to ask for more millage at this time, that would be wonderful. Too good to believe, but I'd be interested to hear what they have to say. Okay? Any further business we need to discuss about the fire levy? You got directions, so Robert, you're gonna get the certification, maybe at our next meeting, we could have a resolution ready for renewal, or we might be looking at the
I would
first
say
meeting
I
in
will
July.
send this off to
Just see-
Andrea and
okay.
see how soon she can get the certification
Okay.
back.
Any further? Okay. The time 7:08, I move that we adjourn this meeting.